with the computer, or you cannot replace your original hard disk with the booted with the pasted hard drive. After that, we have a concept of disk cloning. Now what do we mean by cloning is basically clone is the exact replica in the sense where you have MBR, the same sector will be there in your destination part. Where you have C drive, the same sectors and clusters will be there into the D drive. Where you have E drive, for example, the same clusters and sectors and all the details, including MBR, including MFT, exact replica, not a single pixel, single bit will be changed into the source and destination. Now, disk cloning is the process of copying the entire contents, including unallocated space, including slack space, including MBR, including MFT, whatnot, of one hard drive to another, including all the information that enables you to boot the operating system from the drive. Right, to boot the process, see, you know, if you are having all the details of operating system and if you simply copy and paste into the pen drive, you cannot boot the computer with that pen drive. You need to make it in a bootable manner, right, so that it will create an MBR. Okay, so when you clone the hard disk, it will create an MBR, and so that you can boot the operating system, you can replace your original hard disk with your cloned hard disk. A cloning program enables you to make a one-to-one copy of one of your computer's hard drive on another hard drive, and this second copy of the hard drive is fully operational, that it will be in a operational manner and can be swapped with computer's existing hard drive. If you boot to the clone drive, its data will be identical, right? Not a single bit will be changed to the source drive at the time it was created. A clone drive can be used to replace its source drive in a computer in the event that something bad happens to the original drive. Most of the time, servers are implementing this sort of cloning process to create a backup hard disk of the original, so that if any bad thing happens, you can replace the original hard disk with the clone hard disk. Then after we have we have a concept of disk imaging. It is the process of making an archival or backup copy of the entire contents of the hard drive. Right. Again, here it is also called as bit stream image or bit by bit copy. All the details, including MBR, including MFT, including unallocated space, including select space, all the details will be saved into the image file also. But the only difference is disk image is a storage file that contains all the data stored into the source hard disk and necessary information to boot the operating system. It is having the details into a single file, right? The image file will be a single file that is created by certain tools to create a archive file. It could not be used to replace your original hard disk. However, the disk image needs to be applied to the hard drive to work. You can't restore a hard drive by placing the disk image file on it. That it cannot be replaced, or it cannot be booted or restored by just putting hard drive into the operating system. It needs to be opened and installed on the drive with an imaging program. Unlike clone drives, a single hard drive can store several disk images. Right? You cannot create two clone hard disk into a single hard disk. Right? Let's say you are having 500, two hard disks of 500 GB in the source part, and you are having 1 TB hard disk in the destination part. So you cannot clone two 500 GB hard disk into 1 TB hard disk. Right? Although the storage capacity will be same, but you cannot do that because of cloning exact replica, right? But in terms of imaging, you can store 2, 3 or multiple image files into a single hard disk, right? Because it is a file. Disk images can also be stored on optical media or flash drives, where this cannot be possible with the cloning. Write blocker. Now, what is the write blocker? Whenever you are going to image forensic image, you must use write blockers, right? As we can see here, in this image, write blocker is any tool that permits read-only access to data storage device without compromising the integrity of the data. Right? A write blocker, when used properly, can guarantee the protection of the data chain of custody. Basically, it will give you the this is the source hard disk, suspected hard disk. This is the write blocker connected to the computer. Now we are going to image this particular hard disk. What it will do, it will give us the read-only permission. Read-only in the sense we can only read the data or content available into the hard disk, but we cannot manipulate, we cannot not edit, we cannot delete, we cannot rename. Any editing or any writing permissions are not available into the suspected hard disk, so that the integrity will be maintained of the hard disk. There are both software and hardware and software write blockers available with us. Some software write blockers are designed for a specific operating system only. One designed for Windows will not work Linux. Right? Basically, they are operating system specific. Most hardware write blockers are software independent. Basically, if you connect hardware write blocker with Linux, it will work. If you connect hardware write blocker with Mac OS or Windows, it will work. Okay, imaging process using FTK imager. See, before that, let me just discuss why imaging is preferred over the cloning, right? Because in the cloning, you can exactly replicate. You can boot your computer, you can explore the evidence, you can look for the evidence. Everything can be done in the Explorer. But in imaging, you must use certain tools like NCase, like Autopsy for open source, or like Belkasoft, right? You must use certain tools to run and to open that image file. The only benefit, or we can say the major benefit of imaging over the cloning is you can access system files which are not accessible when your computer is open. For example, as we know, registry is located into this path C Windows System 32 config. That these are the registry files and these are the system files which are not accessible when your system is running. Although you can access registry using regedit, but let's suppose this is the file, this is the offline file that you want to analyze, but you cannot do it with system when the system is running. Let's say we want to delete that system file. You cannot delete, right? Why? Because it is system file. Right. Similarly, any of the file available into the C Windows System 32 cannot be accessed or cannot be opened when this particular system is running. Right. But it is accessible when you image that particular data. Another thing, let's say we unhide everything. For example, we go to view, we have tick on hidden items. Okay. We change the settings as we'll hide protected operating system files also. I'll click that. So we have this much of details only, including page files and hyperfield.sys and all these things. We have this much of data only, right? Now let me open FTK Imager, a tool which we can use for the imaging purpose. There are other tools like NCase Imager. There are another hardwares like Tableau, or there are certain hardwares like Falcon, which can be used for imaging and cloning purpose. Just for the example, we'll use FTK Imager. Let me just add the evidence item. We'll add a logical drive, C drive. Okay, see, in the root part, you can see we have multiple parameters that are not at all available, even though I have selected all the system files and all the details, but that is not visible for me when the computer system is booted. For example, MFT. When you are going to analyze MFT, it is not at all available in C drive. Right, so you cannot analyze MFT in a running system. If you have cloned your hard disk and you booted it up, you cannot analyze MFT, right? But it is possible with image file. Okay, this is just an example why we are preferring imaging. Okay, the very basic steps given here: navigate the file, create disk image. I will show you practically. There are two different types given here: physical drive and logical drive. Physical are the whole hard disk starting from MBR to the last sector. Logical drive is basically partitions, or we can say volumes: C drive, D drive, E drive. Okay, image file is basically used just to convert one file format into the another file format, like E01 to RAW or whatever. Okay, there are certain file formats in which we can create the create the image. Let's say, just for the example, let me remove this. Okay, You can go to create disk. We are having multiple options: physical drive, logical drive, image file, contents of a folder, and Famico devices. Okay, when I select physical drive, it will give me the options. The available physical drive connected to the system. Let's say I have connected this much of hard drive, Sony hard disk, WDC, Samsung, whatever. Okay. When I select logical drive, it will give me the volumes: C drive, D drive, E drive. And when I select image file, it will give me the option to add image file. Now the question is why I want to image file again. The reason or the answer is, if I want to convert a file format, let's say from E01 to RAW, or let's say I want to convert RAW to E01, right? Then I will use image file option. Contents of a folder, let's say when I went to crime scene and I need to acquire only some evidence, right? I don't need to image all the artifacts or all the hard disks. I'm just focusing on Windows artifacts that might be useful. Then I'll select contents of a folder. But the limitation is it will create in a AD1 file format, that is the proprietary format of access data FTK imager. And Famico devices, again, it is CD, DVDs, and all those. Okay, just for the example, I'll select C drive. Here I need to add destination. Okay. When I will click on add, it will give me the details about the different file formats. In which file format I want to create the image file. Now, what do I mean by file format is, it is being created in that particular format which is accessible by certain tools only. Right? The very first is RAW-DD. Now, what RAW or DD is, this is a simple bit by bit copy of the hard drive without leaving or adding any single bit. Right? All the data will be saved into the destination in a single raw image file. This image format is usually accompanied by a separate file containing metadata information about the image file. Right? The drawback of raw DD file format is it is not using any compression format. Right? It is not using any compression. So that, let's say your source hard disk is of having 500 GB, then the destination image file will also be of 500 GB. It is not using any compression. Second thing, it is not containing metadata. Right? Benefits of RAW is it is the raw format, so that it is supported by most of the forensic tools, even most of the and non-forensic tools like WinHacks editor or WinDebugger are also supporting raw DD file format. Okay, and another thing, raw DD file format can be converted into various file formats like E01 or AD1 or whatever. Okay, why it is called raw DD? Basically, DD is the Linux tool, data dumper, disk destroyer, whatever. Multiple abbreviations are there. So basically, it is the tool used priorly. It was used to image or clone the hard disk into the another hard disk. That's why it is called as raw DD. Then we have E01. E01 is the proprietary file format of ENCASE. This is the ENCASE evidence file. It contains information that is related to acquisition process such as investigator name, timestamp, notes, and everything. You will be having the details about timestamp and all those things. It calculates checksum for every 32 KB of data, and at the end of the whole image file, it adds 75 hash for the whole bit string. It is basically proprietary format of E01. Benefits of E01 is it is using compression. It is using compression as well as it is having the metadata. Drawback of E01 is it can only be added into the ENCASE and autopsy as an open source. AFF is the advanced forensic format. The advanced version of AFF is AFF4, that is advanced forensic format that is not being widely used by the forensic investigators, but it is a container kind of thing which can be used to store multiple source of evidence into a single container. It used to store disk images and forensic images metadata. This is not proprietary, this is open format which can be used with any tool for analysis and not exclusively work with a single tool. Right. The major benefit of AFF4 is you can add multiple sources of data like mobile phone acquisition can be added into the AFF4, memory can be saved into the AFF4, your hard disk can be saved into the AFF4. So all sort of evidence can be added and analysis can be carried out in the single chain. Okay, we can still start transfer images from one format to another format using image file format. So I'm quickly going through these things. Okay, so you can select any of the file format, let's say E01. I'll click on next. Case number and whatever you want to add, you can add that. If you want to make it blank, you can add that also. So image file destination, I have to need to create the destination. After that, I need to give the name of the image file, right? Let's say demo. After that, you can use image fragment size. Now, why fragmentation is required? Let's say it will be fragmented after every 1500 MB, right? It means 1.5 GB. My image file will be fragmented. Why it is useful? For example, if you are storing your image file into the FAT file system, FAT32, the maximum file size of a single file can only be 4 GB, right? And your hard disk size is of 500 GB, or we can say 32 GB. Your pen drive capacity is of 64 GB, and your hard disk is of 32 GB, or the data you are imaging is 32 GB, right? So what you can do, you can just fragment your image file into the 1500 MB fragment so that your file can be accessed. Otherwise, the file cannot be stored into the FAT file system because the maximum size of the file in FAT file system can only be 4 GB. Okay, and when I just click on finish, uh, it will give me the details, and I just click on start. The image process will start. I'm not going to image my hard disk. It will take a long time to get image. So this is how we can image the hard disk, right? Now we are focusing on Windows forensic artifacts, potential Windows forensic artifacts into the operating system. So registry is, or we can say Windows registry is a database of information, settings, options, and other values for software and hardware installed on the all system of Microsoft Windows operating systems. It is having the details of each and every setting and information on the operating system. The root keys, when first opening the Windows registry editor, it displays root keys that contain all registry values. Below is a brief description about each of the most common root keys and the values contained in each of them. Okay, just to open registry in a live system, what you need to do is just type regedit. Okay, into the run command, run window, or you can directly type it into the Windows. Okay, I will run it as an admin, run regedit, and here you can see my registry has been opened. So when first we are opening registry, it has 5 root keys. These are called as keys: HKCR, HKCU, HKLM, HKU, and HKCC. HKey classes root, current user, local machine, and all. So HKey classes root contains, it describes the file types, file extension, and OLE information. Basically, it will give us the details about which program, which file extension should open in which program. Let's say, just for the example, docx file. This is the docx file. It should open with application Microsoft Office document, right? It will open. .docx is the open document file, and it must open in Word document, right? Office document. Okay, so basically CSV is there. CSV is again Excel CSV. It is also kind of file format accessible by MS Excel, Microsoft Excel. So here you can see it will open on exe. After that, we have current user, HKCU, or current user. It is having the details about the currently logged on user. It contains the user details about user who is currently logged on into the Windows and their settings. And let's say I am connected with AKS user, so it will give me the details, settings, user permissions, all the details about currently logged on user, HKCU. Okay. After that, we have HKLM, that is HKey local machine. It contains the computer specific information about the hardware installed, software settings, and other information. Right? It is the user specific information. It is the information about whole computer. The information is used for all users who log on to the computer, and this key and its sub keys are the most frequently areas of the registry viewed and edited by the user, knowingly or unknowingly. Right. This is the most edited keys or areas by the user. HKey users, it contains information about all the users who log on to the computer, including both generic and user specific. And HKCC, the details about the current configuration of hardware attached to the computer will be given here in the HKCC. Okay, registry is a giant database, contains information regarding OS functions and stores programs and settings and all these things. The registry itself can be found from this path, see Windows System 32 config. There are certain registry keys like default system security software and default SAM security software and systems, and these are the most common and important registry hires for forensic analysis. All of this can be found here. Even auto backup can be found in the regback folder, right? Okay, SAM is basically security account manager registry hive, which contains the username and password of the all the users in a hash value, and it uses NTLM hash function to store the passwords. In every profile, there is a file named as ntuser.det, which means HKCU. That whatever we are finding here, HKCU or HK current user, the respective registry hive is stored in the users username, and here we have ntuser.det, respective registry hive to HKCU. Whatever data we have here, the file for that is ntuser.det. It is located in this ntuser.dat. Please note that you have to uncheck system protected files from hidden menu that we have already done. Okay, see, there are certain evidences that we can found from ntuser.dat is recent docs, run MRE, type path, and all those things. Okay, let's just quickly dump the ntuser.dat. For that, I'll add my C drive. I'll locate that particular path. See, we can do that from here also. Like we just go to that path, see and HKCU software, Microsoft Windows current version and Explorer. Software, Microsoft Windows current version. Under that we will have Explorer. Okay. Under that, let's have a look at recent docs. It will show us the most recently opened documents. Okay, let's identify recent docs. Here we have. It will give us the bifurcated documents based on the extensions. Let's say DOCX. What are the document files that were opened into the system? It will give us the MRU list as well as MRU position like 0. It will show us file 00007.docx was open. Okay, on 14th we have file 0 dot open. On number 2 we have OS the space. Here we have space does security Android and forensics docx open. Okay, right. So basically these are the MRU list that we can identify, but there is another we can say very good tool, UI tool developed by Eric Zimmerman, that is Reg Explorer. Okay, there is a tool called Registry Explorer, which is a portable tool which can be used to analyze registry in a computer. Let's first grab the registry, user specific registry, that is ntuser.dat. Okay, let's just export that particular file into the desktop. Okay, when file is exported, okay, here we have ntuser.dat file. So what we can do, what we will add that ntuser.dat. So what we can do, we can go to that path, Microsoft Windows current version, Explorer, software. Under that we will have Microsoft. Under that we will have Windows current version, Explorer, recent docs. Okay, so here you can see it has been given in a very good manner, very effective manner, that we can identify what documents were open into the system. Okay, so here you can see Bing was open. In the last session, in the previous session, we have opened Stuxnet.jpg. Here you can see it was showing me as MRU. MRU is basically most recently used position as number one. After that, the internet.lnk was used, pscan was open, volatility was open, http folder was open, this particular pdf was open. So basically it is giving me in a very good manner so that we can identify the details what documents were open into the system. You can even see the timestamp also. Okay, after that, run MRU. Run MRU will give us the details what were the programs that were run into the system. Run in the sense, when I type Windows N into the run a particular dialog box, whatever programs were run into the system, the details will be given here. So you can see temp was run, it give us the details that whatever programs that were typed into the run command prompt, it will give us type paths. It will give us the details about what are the type paths that were typed into the system. Typed in the sense, whatever program I am typing here, whatever path I am typing here, it will give us the details. Okay. After that, we have user assist. It will give us the program execution by the user, but you won't find any details here, that any GUI details or any interference details. So there are certain other tools by which you can identify the run program into the system. We will look into that. Then after we have HKCU, Microsoft Windows current version and run. This is above high is very much important for malware analysis. Shows the startup programs when computer is booting up. It can also be found in the task manager. Okay, we go to the current version and run. Okay, here we have run program. It will give us the details that these programs will run whenever my computer will start. Okay, most of the time what happens is malware authors are creating a persistent for the being a persistence into the system, they are creating a registry addition into the particular key called run. So basically it will give us the details what programs will start when my computer will initiate. Okay, so here you can see OneDrive will start and you can see the attribute as a background. After that, Elcomsoft and Cisco meeting daemon. Right. So basically, these are the programs that will run whenever my computer will start. After that, we will have HKLM system current version and USB store. It will give us the details about USB devices. We'll get back into that. After that, we can have prefetch files. Prefetch files are basically the files which is used by the operating system each time that you run an application in your system. A prefetch file is which contains the information about the files loaded by application is created by Windows operating system. The information in the prefetch file is used for optimizing the loading time of application time in the next time you run. Basically, it is a Windows feature that is used to identify the optimizing of loading the application in the next time when you run it. Right? To identify the prefetch, you can analyze it using a tool from NIRS called WinPrefetchView. You can just go to 64-bit and load for WinPrefetchView. Run it as an admin, and it will give us the program execution details, which program was run into the system, when it was run, how many times it was run, all the details you will get into the particular program called WinPrefetchView. Okay, so here you can see Registry Explorer as we just opened at 346. It is given here at 340. We have opened regedit. It is also given here. Google Update, it was run by the system. So whatever program was run by user or system, it will give us the details about program execution. So here you can see run counter, how many times it was run, right? When it was last run. And here you can see it will give us the details about last 8 time running details. After that, we have shellbacks. Shellbacks, what shellback I mean by shellback is basically, I'm just quickly briefing you about shellbacks. It is basically the storing the details. Whenever you are customizing any folder, right, all the details will be stored into the shellbacks. It is a shellback analysis done by many automated tools like Shellback Explorer. It stores data related to the path open onto the computer. In forensics, it is very much important to identify some directories which is not available anywhere in the computer. Right? Let's say any folder is open from the external drive, right? That details will also be available into the shellbacks. It could be even from an external drive also. Just for the example, let's say I am customizing this folder. What I mean by customization is basically, let's say I am customizing it in a tile format. Okay, and so this customization has happened. I close that and again I will go to that path. Okay, so basically, whenever I am going to that particular path, the customization will be stored into the shellbacks only. Okay, just to open the shellbacks, we can use the Shellback Explorer. The tool developed by Eric Zimmerman. You must run it as an admin. Even you can use offline registry hive to analyze, or you can use online registry hive. You can just avoid that error. I will load active registry hive, and it will give us the details about what files and folders are open into the system. As you can see, W drive is never connected to the system. Even you can use J drive, right? So you can see here we have only C, D, E, F, G, H, I. We do not have J drive, but it still gives us the details about J drive. It gives us the details that these were the folders that were open into the system, that were customized into the system, right? Even key drive, right? Even you can use this folder with the timestamp when this particular folder was accessed into the system. You can get the details. Okay, after that we have volume shadow copy. Volume shadow copy is basically a kind of backup folders, backup sort of thing, or we can say restore points. Whenever your computer is updated, or even after a week or certain period, the computer is creating a backup files, right? So this will be a very important evidence for digital forensics, because they can provide additional data that otherwise would not be available, and they can allow a forensic investigator to recover deleted files and learn what was taking place onto a system before he or she began the investigation. To open the shadow copy, we can have a tool like volume shadow copy view in a Nearsoft. I'll just open and run it as an admin. So it will give me the details that how many shadow copies we have. Okay, so we have only one shadow copy here, and it was created on today at 12:42. At the time of 12:42, we have this much of details in our computer. Right, even you can go to the users downloads. So here you can see at that time we have this much of information. Right, but at present we have this details. Right, so basically this is considered as shadow copy, which can be very much crucial for forensic analysis. USB devices. See, these are the registry path from where we can analyze registry details, right? HKNM, HKLM, and all those things. We can use, instead of that, what we can do, we can use a tool called USB device forensics, USB detective. A USB DView is also a tool from Nearsoft which can be used to list down the connected USB devices. You can see all the USB devices that were connected to the system can be found here. It is giving us the details about type of USB device, that is audio, it is video, it is mass storage, it is vendor specific. You can see the serial number of that particular device is also found here, when it was created, when it was last plugged in. All the details you can find here. Okay, there is another tool called USB detective that can also be used to identify the details. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to add certain files here like system hive, software hive, ntuser.dat hive, setup api, and am cache hive. Okay, so we can use ftk imager to extract all those things. We have ntuser.dat, so what we can do, we can extract other registry hives from here. We can identify setup API from this path, see Windows INF folder, and here we can have a look at setup API. Okay, so here we have setup api.dev.log. You can just extract that desktop. Okay, under that we have app compat, Windows app compat, where we have under programs we have amcache.hive. Okay, that is again registry hive that we are extracting on desktop. We will have C Windows System 32. I'm quickly going through all those things because time is running out and I need to complete all the Windows artifacts. So I'm just quickly running to complete rest of the part. Under C Windows System 32, we will have a config folder. Okay, under that we have System Hive and we will have Software Hive. Right, so we have all the details like System Hive. Just go to full System Hive, we will add there here. We will have Software Hive. We'll go to desktop, software. Okay, we will have ntuser.dat. We'll select that. We will have setup API. We will have AM cache. Okay, and just process artifacts. Just click on that. Why this is important is basically you can analyze image file from here, right? So here are the details with the serial number. These are the descriptions, when it was connected, when it was last connected, when it was last disconnected, volume name, drive letter, whatever. And all the details are stored here and all the details you can get here. See, you can use USB DView from Nearsoft also, but it can be used on live system only. It can be used in an image file also. Okay. After that, we have link files. Link files are the basically shortcut files that are created into the Windows operating system that can be found under C users, username, app data, roaming, Microsoft Windows, recent folder. Okay. C users, username, app data, roaming, Microsoft Windows recent items, and see all these are the shortcut files, or we can say link files that were created by the user, right? Whenever you are opening any file, it will be created as a shortcut, right? So here you can see aim cache, or for example, this is the image file that were open into the system. You can just open the properties of that particular file. It will give you the details about the original path the target of that path. Let's say it was from desktop. Let's open some another file. There's for example Stuxnet. See, it was open from iDrive, right, which is not at all connected to the particular computer. Okay, so basically these are the link files that can be analyzed. There is a tool called Link Explorer, or we can say Link Command, is commonly used utility there developed by Eric Zimmerman, which can be used to identify the particular command. Okay, we can just use this particular command. I'm not showing you just because of the time constraint. Jumbly, I already shared this PPT, so you will get to know how to use these things. And if you find any difficulty, you are having my contact number and my email ID. You can just drop me an email. I'll get back to you. Okay. After that, we will have jump list. Jump list are basically new feature of Windows 7 taskbar. Right? Basically, whenever I'm right clicking on these things, I can get the details about what was open into the system. Let's say I have right click on the PowerPoint. It shows me the last few files that were open into the we can say PowerPoint. If I right click on Google Chrome, it shows me these were the last visited recently visited websites, right? So basically these are called as jump lists. Jump lists will be found at this path: see users, username, app data, roaming, and automatic destination. But if you go to recent folder, that where we were into the identifying the uh, link files, you can't find automatic destination, right? Because it will only be found in command prompt. It is not visible in the Windows Explorer. Okay, let's open it. Okay, so I am here in this path. We are having multiple automatic destinations file here. What I can do, I can just extract those things and I can load that into the any of the folder available, and we can use Jump List Explorer developed by Eric Zimmerman. That is a command that is a GUI version tool as well as a command line utility developed by Eric Zimmerman that we can use. Right, you can just download Jump List Explorer from here. From Eric Zimmerman's tool. Just click on Jump List Explorer from here and you will get the GUI based jump list viewer. Now what you want to do is you just need to extract those files from FTK Imager. So we have custom destination and automatic destinations. These are the jump list files. We just need to export using right click and you just need to add that into the tool. That I'm not going to demonstrate those things because it will take a while to download. Even you can use command line utility of gle.cmd.exe and just need to type the path. Timestamp is basically see, our MFT is storing the details of timestamp of each and every file, right? And DFS is the file system stores record about birth and creation time, right? In the computer we can see Mac as modified, access, and creation, but actually in MFT the data is stored as Mac B timestamp, modified, access, C is for change, and B for birth, right? This is about the details stored into the file, but in the MFT it is stored as modified, access, C is for change in the MFT metadata, and birth B as a birth when it was created, right? See, in the MFT there are two we can say attributes. One is as standard information and second one is file name. So any of the anti-forensic technique like a timestamp can be used to modify the timestamp of the current of the any of the file, right? Let's say there is a tool in Nearsoft called bulk file changer that you can download it from website or even it is available into the Nearsoft package where you can add bulk file changer, right? Let's create a file here and we'll add that particular file. So here you can see this is the original timestamp. It is created right now, but what I can do is just go to actions and select change time and attributes. So what I can do, I want to create modified and access. I want to change that time and I'll create it on a February, let's say some random I have selected, right? Whatever I want to select, I can do. And I'll just click on do it. Okay, and as you can see the timestamp of that particular file will be changed on 2019, 2019, 2018. Now I want to analyze that. I need to extract the MFT and I load that MFT into the tool developed by Eric Zimmerman called MFT Explorer, right? And it will give you the details about the timestamp of both standard information as well as dollar file name attribute that is available in the MFT. You can use MFT Explorer or you can use MFT2 CSV file tool to analyze the MFT. Then we have AMCache and SHIMCache. AMCache and SHIMCache can provide a timeline of which program was executed and when it was first run and last modified. Right? AMCache can be found as system root app compared programs in AMCache hive that we have extracted using FTK Imager. It records the recent processes that were run and lists the path of the files that's executed, which can then be used to find the executed program. It also records the program's SHA-1 basically hash value, so it can be researched with the database like VirusTotal if so you suspect that any malicious process was or a malicious executable was run into the system. There is a tool called amcache.exe that can be used to identify the mcache.hive. You can just dump amcache using FT Imager from that path, and what you can do, you can just type this particular path amcache.exe hyphen csv just to mention that to get the output in csv format, and you just need to mention the amcache hive that you have extracted from FTK Imager. Similarly, you can have SHIMCache. It is also considered as app compared cache. It is a component of the application compatibility database which was created by Microsoft after Windows XP and used by operating system to identify the application compatibility issues. It is also known as SHIMCache and it can be found under this location: HKey local machine, system, current control set, control, session manager, and app compatibility. It is a command line utility called appcompatcache.appcompatcacheparser.exe, which can be used to identify the application compatibility. Even SHIMCache can be identified from volatility and memory forensics also. You just need to type this path volatility.exe, name of the tool -f for mentioning the file name, profile, shimcache.mam. There is a plugin used to identify the SHIMCache and you will get the output into the CSV file. And so these are the very basic artifacts of Windows, artifacts that we can identify whenever you are encountering Windows operating system at the crime scene. So this is end from my side. So if you find any difficulty, if you have any questions related to Windows forensics, you can please ask me. So this is it from my side. If anyone is having any doubts, please ask.
Yes, I was just unmuting the
Sir, if I
students
want
along with the
to,
camera access. Yeah, you can raise your hand, please, and then ask the question. It will be easy for us.
uh, for this, which kind of book or any material can I get from where?
Can you repeat it? Hello.
He asked that he need the material that we discussed today.
Yeah, that we already mentioned in the chat window. At the end of the
Oh,
session, all the participants will be discussing you via email, right? So don't ask regarding the material and recording. Just check the chats properly, right?
So, but we can't see the chats. We log in from the registered email ID, but still we can't see the chats, so we don't have the
It
idea.
will be there once you are logging with that either of the browser-based MS Team, right? Instead of mobile-based.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, any questions regarding the technical content covered during the session? Yeah, it will be appreciated. Yes, the technical questions from the content.
Hello.
yes, please.
I had one question. This is regarding timestamp.
Yes,
Like received one DVD or CD. So when we check the DVD, the time of burning uh, was found out, and at the same time, the time of creation date of the file which has been burned was found out, and it was found that the date of that file or burning date of that file on a DVD is earlier than the date on which the DVD has been burned. So
definitely,
ideally,
definitely it is possible, and it is the genuine case. See, let me just share my screen.
mhm.
See, there is a dispute that this file was created on 6th April and it was
Yes.
modified on 18th April. How it is possible?
Yes, it is a older date compared to this
The
thing created.
reason being, whenever you are copying your file into some other device,
Mhm.
it will carry forward the details as a created time, right? It will change the created time, but modified time and access time will be of parent file only, right? Because the created time will be changed because it is a new creation time for that particular drive, but the modified time and access time will be of the following the previous file only, right?
Okay,
So it
origin
is
on
very
your
much,
original device.
yes, it is very much possible that you will find the modified time earlier to created time.
Okay,
Okay.
understood. And that may be the creation time also on the uh,
Yes, creation
original
time on
device.
disk, right? Whenever you are copying that file from other disk to other disk, the creation time will be changed. Creation time will be
Okay,
of the copied time, but the modified time will be earlier. Whenever the file was modified in the source, the modified time will be there, but the creation time will be of copied time.
okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Sir, can I know the mechanism behind the space taken by the image file is extremely large, sometimes larger than the external drive, whether it gives details of all the files from the drive. Kirutika, what exactly do you want to ask? Can you please unmute yourself? Hello, Kirutika. I didn't get your question. That what you want to ask. So what I understand is you want to ask that what is the mechanism behind the space taken by the image file, sometime larger than external drive. External drive in the sense you want to ask that the larger than the source file to the destination, right? The image size of the image file will be larger than the size of the source hard disk, right? Is it so?
We have unmuted all the participants. Yes, one more question from the participant.
Yes, please.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. So I'm having one question related to the last question. So, uh, the last question regarding the modified date and time. So, sir, can we get to know like how many times the file was modified and it was transformed from one storage device to the another storage device? Like, can we get the details from forensic tools or any?
No, 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 that is not possible. You cannot get the trail of the copied files, whether this file was copied from this, after, before that this file was copied from that. You cannot get the trail of that file, but definitely you can get the details that whether this file is modified, whether this file is, the timestamp of that file is changed or it is the original. That thing you can identify using timestamp, but you cannot get the trail of the file.
Mhm. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And sir, one more question. For the recovery of data, can we directly get the clusters of data? As per technically we talk like it is stored in a linked list form. So can we directly get the addresses of the cluster and by
Mm,
there?
no. You cannot get that. If you analyze MFT, then you can get it. But in the MFT, you can get the starting area of the particular file. Right after that, it is in a linked form. But what you will do if you are having the clusters, you cannot reassemble that. For that, you will need tools only.
Hmm. Okay, sir, got it, sir.
Sir, Kirutika written something in chat
Sir, I
box.
have one question.
Yes, when I scan the pen drive of 4 GB, it comes image file around 22 GB. I don't think so. It is possible, Kirutika, because see, I can't understand what you want to say when I scan the pen drive. By which tool you are scanning the pen drive? Whether you are scanning it with a data recovery tool or whether you are scanning this tool with any image file, image tool, imaging tool, access data FTK. When I scan the pen drive 4 GB. So basically, you are doing an imaging of 4 GB pen drive and it returns you with 22 GB image file. Is it so? You are having 4 GB. Okay, so Kirituka, I'll just do one thing. You are having my mail ID. You just share that screenshot. I'll get back to you because technically it is not possible that the image file will be in a more size of the source file. Technically, it is not possible. You please share the screenshot with me in a mail ID.
Sir, I request you to share your email ID along with contact number, the first slide.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Uh, Sir, sir, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
continue.
Yeah. Actually, sir, I have one question. Like, if the any hard drive it is not detected, so can we, I mean, able to take the image or cloning of that?
See, there are multiple chances that if your excuse me, if your operating system is not detecting your hardware, there are certain hardware devices that are used for imaging and cloning, like Tableau and Falcon that I mentioned earlier. There are software specific and there are operating system independent, by which you can image the corrupted hard disk. Or you can say, if the hard disk is not connected or detected by your operating system or by your computer, you can try to connect it with the uh, hardware devices like Tableau, and using that you can image, right? But if your hard disk is physically damaged, then there are very less chances to image that particular disk, right? So to get the data from damaged hard disk, there are multiple ways by which we can replace PCB, we can replace platter, we can replace spindle, and by these means we can try to identify and try to collect the data, but that is very much difficult practically.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, see my details are displayed on the screen. You can just ping me on my mail ID. Definitely I'll reply.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Sir, which is the best data recovery tool to recover the file which is lost like 3-4 months back on phone or Windows?
It doesn't matter when your data was deleted. The only thing matters is overwritten, whether it is overwritten or not, right? So there are multiple tools like Rikuwa, like Stealer Phonics, or you can have uh, Ncase also, by you can image. mm, disk drill is there. There are list of data recovery tools, but most of the tools are commercial, and if the open source tools or trial version you can download, they will give you some features like you can recover 5 GB, you can recover 10 GB, whatever, depending on the tool. They will give you the some features, not full-fledged. To get the full-fledged tool, you must purchase that.
Sir, could it recover that 3-4 months data, which 3-4 months back the data was lost?
That's what I told. Na, even if the data is not overwritten, that can be recovered.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Uh, Sir, the new hard disks which are coming like NVMe, SSD, so the deleted data not recovered from them, right?
Yes.
Why the deleted data is not recovered from SSD hard disk?
Why the deleted data?
Cannot be recovered from SSD hard disk?
See, it is not like that the deleted data is not at all recovered in the SSD. SSD data can also be recovered, but the only thing is the mechanism by which the SSD data is storing. SSD is storing the data based on the let's say uh, electricity. It is basically stored in the gates. It is storing the data based on the gates, whereas the HDD is storing the data based on the magnetism, right? Because of that, the tools developed by developers are not so compatible with the SSDs. That is the only reason. Otherwise, SSD data can also be recovered.
Okay. Now we announce today's session is complete. Right? If you have any doubt or more query or questions, then you can directly mail to the sir. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. One of the participants is talking something expert T. That's why. So all of you, please turn on your camera. We need to take one photograph. Once we complete our session, one feedback link and that may contains few questions that you need to attend. It is compulsory to attend that feedback form and questions.